Mr. Prasad Chalasani. Mr. Prasad Chalasani is the Director of Caterpillar Product Support and Logistics Division, India. He is responsible for the global Caterpillar Parts IT solution maintenance and optimization. Mr. Prasad has done Bachelor of Engineering from Gulbarga University and completed his Caterpillar Leadership Development Program in partnership with Great Lakes Institute of Management. Mr. Prasad started his career at Caterpillar in 1998 as consultant in Singapore. Since then, he held a variety of roles in IT and worked with global teams in US, Belgium, UK, Japan, China and Singapore. He has 25 years of experience in nurturing highly engaged global teams, delivering large-scale supply chain, IT system implementations and maintenance services. He is a believer in leveraging the strengths of each individual to deliver team outcomes that are impactful to the enterprise bottom and top line. IME welcomes Mr. Prasad Chalasani to enrich our minds with his wisdom and words.
Yeah, Mr. Prasad, please address the gathering.
Good evening. And there's a power-packed presentations from the morning. I think a great audience here. It is my pleasure to stand on this platform to share my thoughts. Myself, Prasad, I have grown with the Indian success story in the IT space for the last couple of decades. And today, for this particular note, I really want to focus through the lens of a common man on how we can actually achieve the 5 trillion economy more than a technical bias, a professional bias that I would have from my experience. If you look at a couple of decades, innovation has all been around product and effective use of those products or easy use of those products. The future looks different. It is about how we consume the products, how we consume the service. That's a key differentiator. We are moving away from a product innovation to a process and a service-focused innovations in the future. With internet, mobility, and digitization of services, India is one of the countries that is generating huge amounts of real-time valuable data. The crux of actually crossing the 5 trillion mark really lies in how well are we able to actually harness the value of this data. So we all need to ask one simple question. What should we do further? What should we do better? Right? And I classify them under 3 major pillars. Right, all of you are hearing the word diversity and inclusion, the D&I. We need to look at that. We need to look at duties and innovation. Right? Innovation alone is not sufficient. We need to look at the citizen duties along with the innovation. And also we will need to look at data and insights, which is very critical and important. Let us start off with diversity and inclusion. From the video that is shared by Bharatji, we have seen the tricolor flag actually throws out several ways how India is diverse, right? It is very powerful. However, there is a lot more to maximize in terms of harnessing the value that comes out of diversity and inclusion. And one of the service sector, tourism, can actually bring that value out because it touches our heritage and culture. There is a need of the hour to actually invest in this particular sector in terms of creating a supporting ecosystems like accessing to the sites, creating an engaging experience, providing other facilities makes it very important. And more importantly, it has to be cleanliness, right? I think I am very happy to make that statement standing here in Indore because Indore has proven the India and stands as an example about cleanliness, right? I think please give a big round of applause to Indore for the great job it is doing and the example it set for the country, right? When we talk of tourism, broadly we are looking at actually attracting the international tourists. But I think the key we also need to focus on the domestic tourism, which is very critical and important. Without that, I don't think we will be able to actually enhance this particular cycle here. You know, if I were to draw some parallels, right, from a history perspective, Boston Tea Party and Dundee March probably have similar importance in their respective points in history whenever that has happened. When I visited Boston, I had a very engaging experience to actually have an experiential learning of how the Boston Tea Party has occurred. I was able to experience that. I have not been to Dundee, but actually I have searched on the Google, and the first thing that comes out is it is one of the cleaner beaches in India. And there is a line that also says, Satyagraha ended there. But I think the point I'm trying to make there is, we have a lot of heritage that we are not tapping into. When I was a 9-year-old, I had an opportunity to travel with my parents to Hyderabad. Right, I'm from South India, Vijayawada. I had to travel. And little did I know at the time, right, I think we are going for my grandmother's cancer treatment. I don't know what the pain they were going through. But I was all excited as a 9-year-old boy that my teacher taught me about Golconda Fort and the Ramadasu jail there. So I'm excited to actually experience and see how Golconda Fort looks and where did Ramadasu was jailed. The impactful historic lesson that I still remember is the Ramadasu jail. The point here is the tourism development not only generates the economy, improves the economy, but it helps as a springboard for our teachers to actually impart the knowledge to our children. Right? In the minds of South Indians, Jhansi has never crossed beyond the textbooks. Right? I cannot think of planning a trip to Jhansi. I don't know what I would experience if I go there too. So I think there's an opportunity to explore there. And this tourism can actually start building the pockets of economic development zones, because people will come in, people start to spend money, the economy cycle start to move there, and the farmers around that area starts to get benefit out of it as well. Because today, if the nature doesn't support, in our villages there is no other revenue source of income. But these kind of sites, if we can develop, I believe there is n number that we can do, because in India, every lane and every stone has a story to tell. But actually we don't tell it passionately and an engaging way so that we can appreciate. And really, tourism, touching heritage and culture at a higher form in tourism, has a significant impact on the educational and enlightenment value for our citizens. We need to really tap into it. And if you are able to do that, probably we will be able to actually use this diversity and inclusion to act as a multiplying factor in terms of boosting our economy. And then that transitions into the duties and innovation. Right? In our academic and educational discourses, we need to really focus on citizen duties and innovation. Right? For citizen duties is very critical, very important. We need to really focus on that, and it all based on the morals. Right? For example, if I don't take time to vote for the public offices, I really need to forfeit my right to actually criticize anything that happens, right? Because I have not taken time to do for myself, right? That is very critical. And once each one of us start to act and behave and understand our duties as Indian citizens, actually things start to ease out. And we need to really focus on aligned curriculums that will actually drive enterprise innovation. By doing so, we will be able to actually create an intellectual capital for us, a creative capital for India. Today, if you look back, the top 4 companies in the world actually attribute to over 5 trillion market cap, right? So if 4 companies in the world were able to make a 5 trillion, I'm sure India can make too, right? But we need to change, we need to learn from it. What is that 4 companies doing very different? As we have seen in the earlier presentations, how do we unbelong, right? These 4 companies are really not trying to figure out what competition is doing. They are focusing on products and services that customers are not looking for today, right? When iPod was coming, nobody was looking for iPod, right? When Ola and Uber were creating those, I don't think if customers were looking for those, right? So it is like new things that we need to come up with that actually drive those things. And a true focus on citizen development duties and innovation as a subject in our curriculums will allow us to build a thought and a cognitive infrastructure that will ensure that India will rise above. I think that is very critical. Along with that, we cannot forget our blue collar jobs, blue collar professions. It's very important. The need of the hour is we need to imagine what are the future needs of our labor workforce and start to build and align our educational budgets to support the future job needs. That is very critical and important. Taiwan and Korea stand as an example in this case because they spent their workforce going through polytechnics and vocational courses to actually build in a ready skill set that made them to become a world leaders in terms of semiconductor manufacturing and electronic space. Right? Today, if you look around, we will see how many of us are owning Samsung phones, how many houses have LG TVs, right? So I think they are the leaders in that particular space. So there is something to learn from them, and we need to have vocationally ready workforce with proprietary skills to take this country forward. We need to build that particular curriculums. At the same time, India has a massive opportunity in terms of tapping into the geographical diversity that we have, right? Because of our geographical diversity, we have a tropical weathers in places, there is a terrains, there is mining, and we can actually produce with a large variety of raw material that the world can consume. It's a time to start thinking about policy making around actually creating a new vertical, a new dedicated vertical around raw material processing. That is very important. And one of the key things that this would also address, today from a farmer's perspective, they are not linked to the industry, right? We can say there are some links, there are examples that where we are trying to bridge that gap, but we don't have a solid link between our farmers and our industry. We need to strengthen that. This policy making around raw material processing industry could be an enabler to actually close that gap and actually raise, right, the value of our agricultural sector. And today, none of us can walk out without talking about renewables, right? And sustainability. That is the mantra. That is the only way we can actually grow. And just as an official count, in the recent Australian bushfires, about 800 million wild animals died. Curbing the bushfires away is one thing, but look at the impact on the wildlife, look at the impact on the soil, look at the impact on the ocean around Australia. It is going to take decades to revive from there. So we all need to understand renewable and sustainability is an part of our business models. With every new generation, there is a uniqueness that comes with, right? And with this young generation, we are already talking about sustainability consciously or unconsciously because of the situation we are in and where we want to go, which implies that we already have a great pool with lot of aspiration around sustainability, but the opportunity remains unexplored. We need to really focus on matching the aspirations to the opportunity in this particular space. For example, if we take Timberland as an organization, they have appointed Chief Sustainability Officer to really focus on increasing the percentage of recycled product that would be used in their manufacturing. Caterpillar, for several years, has been focused on actually remanufacturing of the used parts to restore them back to their nominal and technical specifications that match with a new product, and then kind of give these remanufactured products at a discounted price. Right? That is a great example of recycling and reuse, and not losing the technical value, right? Not compromising on the value as such. And Slovenia became a world-class example for us, where they proved 98% of the municipality waste can be recycled as well. Right? With all those things, we need to really look at how industries take this forward, and the policies around this should continue to evolve. And all the companies has to work with the nature, so there is no compromise there. Whatever I spoke until now in terms of diversity, inclusion, or duties and innovations that we need to look at, they all will help us to go further. But these are all long term. I don't think we can develop the tourism economy in next 1 year to cross the 5 trillion mark. I don't think we can, revive the policies around raw material processing industry and, make it part of the 5 trillion mark here. So we need to ask, what can we do better, right? For me, what can we do better? It is about the leakage economy. We need to look at what is the leakage. Data and insights can help actually quantify the value of the leakage. It is very important. So once you understand the leakage value, we can start to attack the problem. Right? One of the examples, we all experience traffic in the cities, right? If you want to decongestion the traffic in the cities, we always look at expanding the roads, building more infrastructure, right? But we need to reimagine that space to say, decongestion of traffic means dollar savings on imports of oil to India. It means higher money in the hands of Indian citizens because we get better mileage out of our cars. So then we can spend more money, right? We don't need tax intensives. And this could help us, India, to actually meet the sustainable goals as well. So we need to kind of reimagine the value proposition, and probably it begs a question to ask, do we need to reshuffle the accountabilities within our departments to really create an integrated ecosystem that will actually drive all these things, right? One great example is actually, as a movement in India in the last few years, we have replaced significant portion of our CFL with LED bulbs, really from a efficiencies perspective to reduce the leakage. Saving is gaining, right? That's what we looked at it. But however, that happened within one department or one particular sector, right? It is all that power sector that kind of taken care of that. But if I took at my example of the decongestion, when we look at the different parameters, then there need to be a need from oil ministry to roads ministry to some of them coming together to see how do we define the value and how do you fund this and how do we really drive it. So that is very important. And also, I want to say Is 5 trillion the right metric, the right measure, right? I think that is always something to always ask as well, a good question to ask. In a few years back at Caterpillar, the company told, we don't want to really talk about top line sales. What we want to focus is the shareholder returns and stakeholder value. So as a result of that, we stopped actually providing guidance in terms of sales in the next quarter that we can expect, right? Sales for the next year is, instead of that, we started to say, what is the profit that we are going to deliver, right? The guidance is around the profit, not the sales. And that is a significant change in the mindset and the behavior of the organization. So that drives the culture, values, right? So that is different. Yeah. We need to look at those. And from that perspective, we need to ask what is more important. And to summarize, I think when we focus on these 3 D&Is, I believe as a country, we move from a pessimistic economy to an optimistic economy. We actually move from an acceptance culture to an affirmative culture. We move from an individual to a collective success. We also start to see, visualize what we are doing from an economic perspective. We will transform that into an ecosystem visualization. And moreover, along with all this, with the data growth, we really need to look at a good trust built and governances and the policies created around safe and security of the data privacy of each one of us. With that, I believe India can actually create some emerging business models and lead the world in this particular space. With that, I would like to say and end this note telling that the 5 trillion economy for me is all about a social, sustainable, and an integrated goal that actually helps build a better future for our next generations. With that, I thank everyone, and I also thank IMA for the great opportunity that they provided.